So now that we have implemented the student dashboard page, let's go ahead and implement the IsAt method, which is all that we have left to implement in order to finish the test. The IsAt method is going to tell us that we are actually on the correct page and that the correct page is actually loaded. So I'm going to utilize my IDE in order to create this method inside of the user interactions course page. My IDE provides the code template for me, and now I just need to implement it. If you guys remember, we were going to utilize that expander element that was going to tell us whether we're at the right page or not. Let's go ahead and check how that looks in the GUI. I want to go back to the previous step and click Resume Course so that we can see the flow. Notice this loading icon. That's very important because it tells us that we need a synchronization point. And that synchronization point has to be a dynamic synchronization point because if you remember when we first started this test, it took a little bit longer to load. I assume that the application has now probably cached a lot of the information and so it loads much faster. But before that, it was a little bit slower. So we can't have a static wait that's going to be utilized for this test because it's going to break. So we have to use a dynamic explicit wait. And then we're going to utilize this element to tell us whether we're on the right page or not. I'm going to utilize my developer tools of Chrome and then peek at this element. This element tells me that it has an ID called Lesson Shelf Toggle. ID is my favorite locator to utilize with Selenium Webdriver and is the most stable. Therefore, that's what I'm going to use. Coming back here, what we're going to need to do is implement a try-catch block. So I'm going to write try, and then my IDE is going to fill in the rest. And here, I'm going to utilize Selenium WebDriver's explicit wait. So what I've done here is I've utilized the WebDriver wait in order to wait until our element is visible. Now, I placed in here a variable called expanding element locator. And that's because rather than hard coding my by locator here, I'm actually going to utilize it for our UI map, also known as the object repository. So I'm going to create a property that's called expanding element locator. My IDE already knows that it's a by of class by, which is fantastic. And now all I have to do is implement the getter. And if you remember, we're going to use the ID. There we go. So I've implemented our expanding element locator, which just returns a object of type of class by utilizing the ID that we got from Google Chrome. So the reason why I put this in a try-catch block is because if this wait times out, it's going to throw a WebDriver timeout exception. Therefore, when the WebDriver timeout exception is thrown, it's a little bit ugly because it says WebDriver timeout exception has been thrown and I was looking for this element. However, that's not descriptive enough for me because I prefer to have my assertion tell me exactly what went wrong. So therefore, I have to utilize this until method, catch the WebDriver timeout exception, and return false. Otherwise, I'm going to return true if the element is present. So now that result is going to get passed back to our assertion here. And if it fails, I get a nice error message that says the course did not open successfully, rather than an ugly message that says element not found, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that can be useful, but most of the times I find that it's not useful, and therefore I prefer to avoid it.